The water crisis in Toledo, how we're impacted is it definitely has looked negatively on agriculture in Northwest Ohio because a lot of finger pointing is going on. There's no secret to that. We know that what we do on our own farm primarily, we end up with almost everything covered with a cover crop on it. So that's one of the biggest issues. But that's been our part of our stewardship, is making sure that everything gets cover crop on it for the soil erosion and for retaining the nutrients back on the farmland and not let them get out on the waterways.
It's forced us to look internally as to some of the things that we can and can't do, and how we can help solve this problem together.
Our rotational basis is we're dealing with a small grain crop. We deal with corn, food grade corn, edible beans, and then cabbage. But basically I'm on a 4-year rotation in raising all those crops. So that means if the field has seen that, it's not going to see that crop again for another 4 years.
The cover crops is typically something that we do not harvest. We will plant it, like let's say corn, for example. We will fly rye, cereal rye, on our corn in July, and then when the corn comes off in the fall, that rye is already germinated and it grows. So we keep the activity in the soil.
We plant soybeans. That's a legume, so that fixes nitrogen in the soil. There's residual nitrogen. The following year, we will plant corn. But in between there, as Lou alluded to, we like to keep everything covered. We may plant a rye or a wheat. Typically, we try to stay away from a grass, but just kind of depends on year. Soybeans don't come off till late in the season, so your planting window is much smaller, but allows for something to keep cover on that soil, something growing in the spring before we can plant. And then following corn, we'll usually either go back to soybeans if we need to, but in between there, we also can plant, after soybeans, we can go to wheat as well. It's also a grass crop, so we're using that residual nitrogen there as well. The United States has the safest food supply in the world, and we're proud to be a part of that. I think that's something that we really want, from a producer standpoint. We want people to know that we're doing everything we can to produce them a safe, sustainable food supply, not only for us, but for them as well.
I think education is the biggest part. Ourselves, we try to take every opportunity that we possibly have to educate, anywhere from our growers to schools to politicians, you name it. Because if they don't see it, you can't fault somebody for something that they have that they just have no knowledge of. I mean, it's unfair. You have 99% of the people that are, at best, they're going to guess on how things are done, or they're going to be informed, social media or otherwise. They're going to be informed, and our biggest battle actually is getting the correct information out and having that be as unbiased as possible. Between 22 and 38 years old is what they're looking at, and they're saying that right now that they're willing to pay more money for their food on the comfort level of knowing everything about their food. Basically, they're paying for transparency.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so the more transparent it becomes, the more they're willing to spend on it. If truly you want to buy something organic because it is local, because of the impact on the environment, because of all that, then you're going to look at it and say, I want the organic that I just saw because it was. I drove down the road, I went past the farm. I know they have it down there. That segment of the market is becoming huge. It's becoming massive because if you can have the local, sustainable, and then you can throw organic on top, that's great.
I'm actually really excited for the future of agriculture. I think we've got some really, really great things coming down the line.
There's equipment out there that allows us to say plant multiple hybrids on a certain field, so we're able to, benefit more. We'll be able to put the right hybrid where it's supposed to be. We're just able to, be more efficient.
Our greatest asset in our country today is our ability to produce our own food. That is our greatest asset. Our fresh water and our ability to produce our own food so that we don't go hungry as a society and as a country. And that all links back to the land and the environmental practices we employ, the stewardship, and you can frame that any different way, whether it's technology, cover crops, crop rotation. It's all about making sure that we take care of the asset that produces our food to feed our country.